Trent Brown is officially set to visit the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's talk about how he fits and what his impact could be on the Bengals' plans.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Lisco. He's your host, James Rapine. We're the Locked On Bengals podcast, and you can find us on YouTube everywhere you get your podcasts. If you're new to the show, you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening, hit the follow button. Make it easy to become an everydayer. Don't miss an episode. Get those notifications when we put our episodes up. Join the live chat on YouTube when we premiere our episodes every day, and we appreciate every one of you who does those things. If you're new to the show as well, or maybe you're old to the show, you want to support us or get a direct line of communication to us, get updates first from us via text directly to your phone. There's about 180, 200 people doing this already. You can check out joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBengals to join the Locked On Bengals Insider Group. You get a 14-day free trial to check it out. And there's some testimonials out there on Twitter for those of you interested. But James, today we talk about Trent Brown's visit to the Cincinnati Bengals and how he would fit. He's obviously a guy that they would bring in to be a starting right tackle, but there's more to it than just that.
For sure. There's a lot of layers to it. By the way, shout out to Lindsey Patterson for being one of those people that has supported the Locked On Bengals insiders on social media. And look, Trent Brown, to me, and we talked about him yesterday before we knew that he was visiting, but to me, this is all right, let's get a guy that we know can keep Joe Burrow clean in pass protection, as clean as anyone that's going to be available. And he's done it. He's done it at a pretty darn high level. He's done it in big games. Is he perfect? No. Is he going to give up pressures? Sure. Is he the best offensive tackle in the league? No. But when you look at what the Bengals have had in that spot, is it realistic to think that there's a good chance he could be the best right tackle Joe Burrow has had? I could get on board with that. I could see that path. Does he have experience playing both sides if needed? He does. So to me, he's not going to break the bank, has experience, has a ring. There are going to be so many rings on the Bengals offensive line if they sign Trent Brown. Not that there isn't already, but they're 4 rings. 2 with Ted, 1 with Kappa. 4 of the 5 came from, or 3 of the 4 came from Brady, of course, and then one with Mahomes. Or is it 5 rings? It is 5, isn't it?
I think it's 5. Yeah,
Orlando, it would be 5
as well. Mm-hmm.
4 of the 5 would be courtesy of Tom Brady in either New England or Tampa Bay, but still wild to think about if they're able to get it done. But the pass protecting element, and you have a stat. We were talking right before the podcast started, leaving him on an island. You remember when they signed Riley Reef, and it was like, it's nice because we can leave these guys on an island a bit. And they were doing that early on when it was Riley Reef and Jonah Williams. And I think that they will be comfortable leaving Trent Brown on an island if they do sign him, and he is their starting right tackle.
It was something New England was very comfortable with. In 2021, in 2022, Trent Brown led the NFL in left on an island rate. That stat courtesy of Arjun Menon, who is great with stats on Twitter, has some really interesting stuff that I've been retweeting actually just in the last couple of days. But then again, in 2023, led the NFL in the offensive tackles left on an island most often list. I retweeted that on Tuesday morning. Trent Brown was left on an island with the New England Patriots on nearly 73% of his snaps in 2023 in pass protection. That's a lot of snaps to be on an island, and is in line with previous years where it was actually closer to 80% in 2022, and both of those led the NFL. And despite that, he had really good PFF pass protection grades in both of those years, and it wasn't perfect. Like you said, there have been penalty issues on the left side when he's played those full seasons, when we looked at his history in yesterday's show, when this interest was ramping up and the likelihood of a visit was increasing, and then it happened, of course, right after we published our episode, because of course That's how things go in free agency. But really high grading, despite being left on an island, is a guy that Brandon Thorne describes in his annual free agent tackle tier list, actually ranked ahead of Jonah Williams, and talks about his usual pass protection prowess. When he's on the field, there are a few more effective pass protectors at the position. He also offers dominant stretches as a run blocker, writes Brandon Thorne. But the big key is when he's on the field. As we've talked about, he's finished 3 seasons in his NFL career. And would it surprise you if the Bengals took a La'el Collins approach to this deal and this negotiation where there's heavy per game active bonuses that make up a lot of the money that Trent Brown could earn, heavily incentive laden with, weight incentives and playtime incentives? That wouldn't surprise me, given his experience in the NFL and given the Bengals' approach to this free agency and their previous approach to La'el Collins.
I agree. I think that there's one part of why I agree is because the Patriots were in on La'el Collins once upon a time, and they were interested in him. And I think one of the attractions, if you're Trent Brown, it's pretty simple. Everyone knows what Zach Taylor is now. It's very player friendly, and he will do whatever it takes to get Trent Brown ready for Sunday. That means Wednesday is a stretch day and you go through the walkthrough and that's it. And you're in sweats and hanging with the writers on the side of practice. I think that could happen. No, he would not actually be hanging with us, but it's certainly something that I think is a benefit for guys like Trent Brown, because you just want to make it to Sunday and be able to play at a high level and be healthy. And going from Bill Belichick to a Zach Taylor camp, Zach Taylor in-season program where it really is, let's try to get everyone, let's take every precaution and get them to Sunday. You can make that push as well, because La'el didn't miss time until he had that ACL. He was out there despite dealing with multiple injuries. They were finding ways to get him on the field. And so, yeah, maybe there will be some of that structure in there. I would get that, certainly, especially if it's a multi-year deal where they would certainly have those things in there for him to hit those benchmarks. And if I'm Trent Brown, this is the one team, like I said, that I would look at and I would trust. All you have to do is make a few calls. That's been a revolving door at right tackle. You could call La'el, you could call Riley, and I think they would have good things to say about this coaching staff, and certainly Zach Taylor, which is a huge factor when you're a guy like Trent Brown trying to make a decision on where to go, because there's interest in him from other teams. There isn't no interest. He's hard to find. You just described him. Quality pass blocker. Not many guys do it when he's playing at the level he's capable of, what Brandon Thorne said. And he can be a really good run blocker at times. Great. Sign me up at right tackle for that. And at the same time, because of his injury history, because he's 31, you're not saying sign me up for that and don't draft one. I still think the Bengals would be wide open in the draft. I think that they would be open to taking a right tackle as early as pick 18. They don't have to if you have Trent Brown. And I think that's where they want to get, to where they don't have to, but they would certainly be open to it. And so this could take a while, like that La'el Collins negotiation. It took a while. It was multiple days. I don't know. Maybe it gets done by the time people hear this. Maybe it takes a couple of days and takes some time for them to iron things out. Regardless, I think we all agree that adding Trent Brown would be good for the Bengals.
Yeah, and if he does come in and play right tackle for most of the season, you're in a pretty good place. But to your point, I think right tackle is still the most likely. Like, it's still the favorite in the first round, even if they sign Trent Brown, because of his history of injury issues. And you can't.
And it's a great tackle class.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
that's a huge element here to this whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. And the reason Trent Brown is still available at this point in free agency is partially because it's a great tackle class. And we saw the way teams attacked free agency, and that position wasn't necessarily prioritized outside of who signed early. Mike and Wenu signed relatively early, and Illuminor signed early.
Yep.
And that's it.
I think you're right. Yep. I have a question about this. And it's not contract based, and we still have to get the Zack Moss. I want to get the St. Tattie's Day as well. But I have a question that could be the holdup, And I do wonder if you're Trent Brown, if it would hold us up. So let's discuss that. I'll ask it coming up next. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. I've used them for cabin air filter, engine air filter, spark plugs, anything from basic maintenance to superchargers. eBay Motors has it, whether you're into speed, power, or style. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need to and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
What's your question?
All right, Jake. Yeah, my question, it's a simple one. What if Trent Brown says, we know how good of a tackle class it is? Trent Brown and his team, his agent. We know how good of a tackle class this is. I want to be the week 1 starter. What do you say?
There's probably a pretty easy chance he's the week 1 starter anyway, depending on who they draft. There's a lot of guys that they could draft who I think are really good players who maybe aren't week 1 starters anyway. We've talked about bridge tackles throughout this free agency period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you put it in the contract?
No.
I don't think I would, because
it would be
you
a
wanna
verbal. It would be a verbal thing. You can't put it in the contract. That's
I don't even know if I would agree to him. I'd say, hey, you beat that rookie out, you'll play week 1. Because you're not going to be like, yeah, we'll play you even if the rookie's better. You got to be open to putting your best players on the field. I would not.
So you wouldn't sign him?
No, I wouldn't give him that assurance.
If it came down to that, though, if he said, I have a starting offer from this team and this team, and who knows?
You can make up hypotheticals all you. I don't think that's the case. He doesn't seem to have a huge market. This is the first we've really heard of any significant interest in Trent Brown. If it came down to it, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not in that position. I guess what would you do? But if it's me and I'm like giving somebody my word means something, right? And so I'm not going to tell somebody something I don't believe in. And I believe that I would put whoever's playing the best at right tackle in week 1 if I drafted a first round rookie. Like, that would have to be an open competition for me.
To your point, I think there's a way to go about it and phrase it without guaranteeing it. And it's pretty simple. We don't know if we're taking an offensive tackle at 18.
Yeah.
And they don't. And so, yeah, we want to add to that area. It's a really good class. At the same time, we want you in the building because we think you can start for us. And we think you can be the missing piece of this offensive line this season. And that's kind of where I would leave it. No guaranteed starting, none of that. But if, let's say they sign Trent Brown this week, he's my favorite to start week 1 from the jump. And until one of these rookies comes in, whether it's first or second round, after that, I don't think there's really a shot in hell. But first or second round, that rookie better outperform Trent Brown. And I think that's that's the interesting element. That's all. And if I'm Trent, I'm not scared of that.
No,
because you have 9 years on the rest of these rookies coming in.
Yeah, he's an experienced player, and he shouldn't be afraid of a little bit of competition, given his track record. When he is on the field, motivated, playing, healthy, all these things, he's been good. He's been a good player. But in a lot of ways, it reminds me of the La'el Collins situation, where there's a player who has been really good. The big difference is that there's no like reported, what's the word when the injuries don't get better? Chronic injury issues or deteriorating, back or knee or hip concerns with Trent Brown. As far as we know, it's just he's big and he's been hurt a couple of times. Well, a lot of times.
With La'el, he couldn't move the way he used to. Like, his back was tight. He was completely different. With Trent Brown, you need him to stand there and use those arms and that power. It's
and
just
he moves okay. Like,
no
for
doubt.
his size, he moves perfectly fine. But when you move at 370 pounds at all, that's moving well for your size sometimes.
And so, yeah. And so I think that's the fun part. We have to work on a nickname, by the way. The Browns, the Twin Towers. I don't know, but just throwing that out there now so we can get ahead of it.
Yeah, there would have to be something involving something very heavy and large.
They could be the Twin Towers, and then Chase Brown and Zack Moss could be what? The muscle hamsters? I don't know. I don't know what you would
Little
call
engines
them.
that could. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
I don't know, but that's what's fun to me is,
Yeah.
and this is how we can transition to Zack Moss. I think I mentioned this on a pod. I get over the past 10 days has been a blur. I just remember talking into this microphone, mentioning Giovanni
You
Bernard.
did.
Okay, good. I think that Zack Moss is going to fit like a glove in this locker room and fit like a glove scheme-wise with the pass protection, how they want him to be able to run behind the tackles, between the tackles, and behind maybe 2-6-8 men where you're never going to find him. And then boom, he just skirts out of there, him and Chase Brown. Like I really like it. A week plus later, the fact that they were able to get Zack Moss, who to me was one of the higher end, like don't break the bank for a running backs available for what they were looking for. I like this move more and more the more I think about it, and the more I learn about him as a player, person, all of the above.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it's going to open up the way they use their running backs. That's the biggest difference, right? Is that we should see less of a bell cow situation and more of a rotation. And if they add another running back in the draft, which with that extra third round pick, if you can get a Jalen Wright, if you can get a Trey Benson, if you can kick the tires on a Braylon Allen, whoever it is, do they add another piece there to go into the rotation with a day 2 pick? There's no hesitation around deploying these guys in a heavy rotation to use their strengths. But what Zack Moss gives you is the experience, the pass protector, the guy who's run a lot out of the shotgun in a similar scheme, a lot of inside zone in Zack Moss's time, a lot of runs up the middle where he averaged about 4.5 yards a carry in the A gaps with the Indianapolis Colts. Looking at the PFF splits here, and if that's what the Bengals want to do with Zack Moss, great. If they want to use him as a battering ram on inside zone in the middle of the line of scrimmage, fantastic. And that's largely where Joe Mixon was used last year as well. Whereas Chase Brown, they're trying to get him into some other gaps. They're trying to get him on the outside much more frequently, where 20 or 19 of his 44 carries last year came to either end, according to PFF charting, left end or right end. And so the ability to use these guys to their strengths, to use Chase Brown's speed, Zack Moss's abilities as a pass blocker, as an efficient guy who can make people miss, who can keep his balance, who can get the tough yards, and then give you the flexibility to add a back and use all those guys. That's where you're looking for the run game to potentially get better, is that they don't feel beholden to get Joe Mixon a certain amount of snaps and touches per game, and it should liberate them to use guys more freely in the roles that they think are best for them. And then Andrew Russell with some great stats on Zack Moss. The stable running back metrics that are most predictive and most stable year over year. Missed tackles forced per attempt on rushes. Zack Moss, 73rd percentile in the NFL, top 25% of NFL running backs. We talked about the fact that Zack Moss breaks tackles on twice as often as Joe Mixon did. Missed tackles forced per catch, Zack Moss in the 83rd percentile. And his grade on zone runs, which is inside zone largely with the Colts, 71st percentile. So some elusiveness perhaps with Zack Moss individually, and the ability to free up running backs to their preferred and optimal roles. That's what you're looking for in the run game with this addition.
Yeah, I think the break tackle element, the pass protection element, those two things alone just give them and if you want to go even more recent, it's like Samaje Perine with more pop, that he'll give you the pass blocking element, but he's also going to be able to do a little bit more there. And maybe it's similar hands wise, because Zack Moss has had some nice catches. At the same time, it's not like he has the 50 60 catch seasons either.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily, I wouldn't anticipate that. So I really like the fit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think ideally he's Samaje Perine with a little bit more break tackle ability, a little bit more elusiveness.
No, and he definitely has that. And so sign me up. I think running back is certainly still open in the draft. They have 10 picks. Hopefully they end up with like 7 because they're moving up. And I still think that they'll probably add to that running back room as well. But it's time to go from running back to center. America's favorite center. No, not Jason Kelsey. Ted Karras had an awesome event on St. Patrick's Day, St. Taddy's Day. We will discuss that coming up next. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. I don't even think, Jake, I'm going to do a bracket this year. Maybe the emails are going out, but to me, I can do all of it. I can win more. I can certainly wager on the games that I feel most confident in with FanDuel. And right now, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So throw $5 on an NBA game or one of the play-in games, and then boom, win, hit that, and get $200 in bonus bucks right now with FanDuel. It's for new customers, and now is the perfect time because the tournament is here. And if you don't want to worry about an entire bracket and you just want to go game to game, FanDuel is the way to do it. Again, $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Get those $200 if your first bet hits of $5 or more. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon, and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets.
James, you attended Ted Karras St. Taddy's Day event. You were there up close and personal. I don't know how personal or how close, but you saw the tattoos and Ted Karras' tattoo being applied. What were the big stories for you as you were there in person?
Well, I might have gotten a tattoo, but I can't say where.
Of course. No one will ever see it if you did. So
see. So did I or didn't I? I don't know. No, I did not. Ted wasn't going to. But this is why Joe Burrow is going to win an MVP. So he's out to the free agent dinner. And obviously this all benefits Village of Marici. If you're new to this, if you have no idea what we're talking about, just check out the cincyhat.com and you'll be able to learn. But this event raised over $45,000 for the Village of Marici on Sunday. And it's a 6-hour event. Ted Karras takes all these pictures, autographs, literally on his feet the entire time, 6 hours. And Zach Taylor was there. Multiple other Bengals, different coaches. Brad Robbins was there. I'm thinking there's a couple other Bengals. Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson was there, signing autographs, taking photos. But this is why Joe Burrow is going to win an MVP. Is Ted Karras didn't plan on getting the tattoo, and Joe said, "I will donate $25,000 to the Village of Marici, but you have to get the tattoo." Ted got the tattoo, and I would have too if it was like a match. Well, then sure, 25,000. That's worth it because it's a really cool logo, Cincy logo, and worked out really well. All the tattoo artists were awesome, and no issues with anything because you want an event like that with thousands of people literally at the Folling Warehouse. You just don't know how it's going to go. It was awesome. There was awesome food there. Skyline, Donato's. Trying to think of what else, but it was family friendly, which I wasn't sure. St. Patrick's Day and tattoos, you just don't know, but it was very family friendly as well. So Ted, it's crazy. Ted's only been here for 2 years because he feels like he's been here much, much longer. And obviously the project's done a ton of great things and is going to impact Cincinnati as well. He's partnered with Ken Anderson. So it's huge. And by the way, Jake, a lot of people mentioning Locked On Bengals, just throwing it out there. A lot of people did. So shout out to you as well.
We really appreciate all of you who made sure James knew that you're everydayers. And I know I'm not there all the time. I'm not there very often, but keep telling James about these things because he'll tell me.
I do.
At least most of the time.
I try to.
And that was Ted Karras' first tattoo.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you mentioned that, but
first one. Yeah, first one.
And he, like you, if you were to have gotten one, which you may or may not have. Well, I guess you said you didn't, but put it somewhere.
You just spoiled it.
You said it. Put it somewhere where it won't be seen very often, getting it on the upper leg. But you're right. I mean, if you're going to get a tattoo, why not be the hat that helped springboard your charity and this thing you're really passionate about. And it is a cool logo. And it is a cool moment in Ted Karras' life. The Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee that took off was all around this hat and all around this city. So why not? Why not commemorate it? I think good decision for Ted.
And one cool thing, so Zach Taylor shows up, and Ted said, "Oh yeah, Zach was here." You talked to Zach briefly. Zach wasn't like scheduled to sign autographs or take pictures, and Ted has a line, huge line, which of course, right? And then on the other side, there's a line, and I'm like, who's everyone in line for? And I didn't know Zach was there at that time, and I walk up and there's Zach signing autographs, taking pictures with everyone. And he must have done that for at least an hour, and he was not scheduled to, didn't have to, nothing. And everyone that was in line got a picture, or got an autograph, whatever they were looking for. So really cool. And like I said, it was an awesome event. I don't know if you need to do the tattoos every year, maybe, but having like a St. Patrick's Day festival, it was a really cool idea because there were a ton of Bengals fans there. And hopefully it can become some kind of annual thing. Again, the arranging of all the tattoos, I think that's pretty tough. But who knows? Maybe the desire, the demand is there, and so who knows? Maybe they will make it an annual thing.
I mean, that brand I don't think is going anywhere. The Cincy hat is I think here for a while.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's no problem. It's right here.
Yeah,
and there's right here.
And they got all the different color combos, which I think is a pretty great little marketing idea.
Which one? So we're recording this. It's 12:23 Eastern. As we finish up the show here, the reason we know Trent Brown is going to sign tonight is because for our everydayers, Orlando Brown Jr. signed last year when Jake was going on a date at like 10 at night after we had recorded. Jake has an obligation tonight, and he will be busy. And he will be off the radar for a few hours. No, it's not a date. He's going to a movie. But, or maybe it's a date and you're lying to me. I don't know. But it's interesting because now I'm on an island. Trent Brown versus me. And if he gets announced, then guess what? It'll be a one-on-one with me here on Locked On.
Yeah, if it's like anytime after, I would say 10:45 tonight. Yeah. Yep. You're on your own. But I think that works much better early in the process because last year Orlando Brown was the first day, wasn't he? Or no, he wasn't. Third day?
Oh,
first day of free agency?
Like I think it was that Wednesday night. Yeah, I think it was that Wednesday night. Yeah.
First day of actual new league year. This year, the Bengals have inconvenienced me plenty from, announcing a signing coming out, right after I started a set at the gym, or one where we had to stop recording 10 minutes in and start over. We've had 4 different things. But
it's gonna happen.
On Friday, I left land altogether. I was on a boat to a different island, and it didn't seem to help. A little ferry, it's a different island. Ride.
Subtle flex. After you flexed about the gym, he's like,
there's like little islands around the big island,
He said, I'm on a boat.
It's a ferry, BC ferry. Anyway, last football topic here. Maybe we don't have time. We'll talk about this in a future episode. If Trent Brown does sign, maybe when Trent Brown signs, I think I anticipate this to come together at this point. We'll see. How does that impact your draft plans? And
sure.
Doesn't take you off of tackle, but how much more comfortable are you going interior defensive line or moving around in the first round or whatever your particular first round Bengals
draft know what I'm thinking
is? Because James is full of Bengals draft fantasies. He says every day there's some nonsensical fanfic mock draft.
I wrote about, and I forget the guy's name, but shout out to you, guy that I forget, but I wrote about trading up, like using T to trade up, and he was like, hey, way to steal, because he had tagged us in something. It's like, way to steal my idea. I was like, dude, I've been sending Jake trade up ideas for months.
That's true.
For months.
True. I get like T Higgins 18 for 5. I'm like, James, what are we doing? Anyway.
Hey, It's about to be that time, though, baby.
Yeah,
Almost draft. Let's
we'll
wrap
let
up
you
free agency, though.
we'll let you get on a soapbox and talk about the trade up idea on this show sometime soon. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. We'll be back if news breaks that we need to tell you about. Until then, thanks for listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.